I want to start today with a scenario. Imagine you were at a dinner party.
Okay.
The wine is flowing, the lighting is dim, and everyone is feeling, charming and intellectual.
I can picture it.
Right. And someone turns to you and asks, what is your all-time favorite book?
Oh, that is a loaded question.
It is. Now, be honest with yourself here. Do you answer with the book that actually brought you the most visceral joy?
Like a beach read.
Exactly like a scruffy, dog-eared thriller you read on a beach in 3 hours. Or do you answer with the book that you wish was your favorite?
The one that makes you sound like the person you want to be.
Yes, the aspirational favorite.
We have all been there. It is the difference between citing something like Infinite Jest and, say, a really good Agatha Christie novel.
Right.
One signals to the room, I am an intellectual titan, and the other just signals, I like to be entertained.
Exactly. But here is where it gets sticky for me. I was looking at my own bookshelf the other day, and I realized I have an entire row of quote-unquote favorites that I haven't actually touched in 10 years.
Just sitting there on display.
Just sitting there. And it hit me, am I keeping these because I love them, or am I keeping them because I am trying to preserve the version of myself that loved them?
Wow. Well, that is the central question of today's deep dive.
It really is.
We are looking at this really fascinating discussion between linguistic observers Emma and John.
The source material is called The Architecture of Identity.
Right. And their thesis is essentially that our favorites, our songs, our cities, our smells, they are rarely about the objective quality of the thing itself.
So it's not about the actual book.
No. They are artifacts. They act as structural beams holding up a version of our identity that, honestly, might not even exist anymore.
So we are basically going to dismantle the whole concept of taste today.
Pretty much.
We have a lot of ground to cover. We are looking at the neuroscience of why music makes us cry, the evolutionary biology of why we like the smell of rain, all of it.
The mission here is to move beyond surface level likes.
Right. We want to understand the psychology behind why we prefer what we prefer.
And I want to be clear right off the bat, this isn't just a conversation about nostalgia.
Because nostalgia is, it's kind of a fuzzy, warm feeling.
Exactly. What Emma and John are discussing in the source is something much sharper. They use the word visceral a lot, and for very good reasons.
Visceral connections.
Yes. We are talking about how the physical world, our senses, the objects around us, literally wires our brain to create a sense of self.
I am so excited for this. The concept of time travel through the senses is just, it's mind-blowing.
It grounds all these abstract ideas into the real vocabulary of identity and psychology.
So if you are ready to question everything you claim to love, let us get into it. Let us start with what the source calls the soundtrack of the soul.
This is usually the easiest entry point for people.
Because everyone has that one song.
Everyone.
So Emma describes a favorite song as an instantaneous time capsule.
Sure.
But I want to push back on this a little bit. We use the term time capsule so loosely.
We do.
Usually that implies, digging something up from the backyard that is covered in dirt. It takes time.
But she suggests this is immediate.
Yes, immediate.
It is immediate, and that is a critical distinction. Think about looking at an old photograph.
Okay.
You look at it, you recognize the faces, you reconstruct the context, you think, yes, that was 2012. I was wearing that terrible sweater.
Sure. It is a retrieval process.
Exactly. It is a cognitive process. It is linear. You are thinking about the past.
You are actively doing the work of remembering.
But music bypasses the linear processing entirely.
How so?
The research on this is incredibly dense and fascinating. When you hear a piece of music from a formative period in your life, it does not just activate the auditory cortex.
The part that hears the sound.
Right. It lights up the limbic system.
Oh, wow.
Specifically the hippocampus, which handles memory and navigation, and the amygdala, which handles emotional processing.
So it is quite literally a neurological shortcut.
It is a wormhole.
A wormhole.
Emma mentions a specific chord progression hitting her, and suddenly she isn't just remembering being 19.
She's 19.
She is 19. The sensory data of that moment, the temperature of the air, the smell of the room, the anxiety or joy she felt.
It all just floods back.
Before she can even name the song.
She uses the word visceral here, and I feel like we toss that word around a lot in culture right now.
We definitely do.
But what is the actual biological implication of visceral?
Viscera refers to the internal organs, the gut, the soft underbelly of the body.
Okay.
When we say a reaction is visceral, we mean it is physiological.
Like a physical reaction.
It is the stomach drop. It is the tightening of the chest, the hairs standing up on the back of your neck.
Oh, I know that feeling.
The vagus nerve is heavily involved here. It connects the brainstem directly to the body.
And music can stimulate that.
Music can stimulate that nerve directly. So when Emma says the reaction is visceral, she means the music is playing her body like an instrument.
Not just her mind. Which perfectly explains why you can never argue someone out of a favorite song.
You absolutely cannot logic your way out of a physiological response.
Okay, so let us look at the example she gives in the text, because I think it is hilarious and also deeply relatable for a lot of people.
The Italian pop music.
Yes, 90s Italian pop music.
A genre known for its, let us call it, exuberant production value.
Exuberant is a very polite way to put it. Now, I am assuming we are not talking about high art here. We are not talking about opera.
No. We are likely talking about heavy synthesizers, very simple repetitive lyrics, and a drum machine that sounds like it came out of a cereal box.
Right. So objectively speaking, if you were a music critic writing for Pitchfork or Rolling Stone, you'd tear it apart.
You would call it cheesy.
But for Emma, it is a favorite. It is top tier for her.
What? This is the crux of the argument. It is the cheesy pop paradox.
I love that phrase. The cheesy pop paradox.
She isn't listening to the composition. She isn't analyzing the bridge or the key change. She is listening to her semester in Florence.
Context is king.
Context is everything. She talked about feelings of freedom, of discovery. This is probably the first time she was living away from home.
Right, the first time navigating a foreign city.
Maybe the first time she fell in love or had her heart broken.
That is huge.
That period of life, usually late adolescence to early adulthood, is what psychologists call the reminiscence bump.
The reminiscence bump. Let's unpack that.
It is a phenomenon where older adults tend to recall memories from their teenage years and 20s more vividly than any other time in their lives.
Why is that?
It is when our identity is calcifying.
Ah.
So the music that is playing in the background during that calcification process becomes fused with the identity itself.
So the Italian pop song is inextricably linked to the feeling of being young and free in Florence.
Inextricably linked. That is a collocation used in the source, and it is absolutely perfect.
Because it means you cannot untie the knot.
You can't. If you tried to remove the cheesiness from the song, you might actually ruin the memory.
That is fascinating. The bad production is the texture of the memory. Yes.
That is a really liberating way to look at guilty pleasures, I think.
How so?
Well, we shouldn't feel guilty about them. We're just honoring a past version of ourselves.
Precisely. You are honoring the context, not the content.
Right.
When you listen to that song, you are briefly allowing that 19-year-old version of yourself to take the wheel.
And that is a literal form of time travel.
It really is.
I love that. Okay, so we have established that our ears are basically time machines.
Yes.
But let us move to a different sense entirely. Let us talk about physical space, the geography of emotion.
This is where John steps in for the source material, and he challenges the whole idea of the bucket list city.
You know, the idea that there is an objective list of best cities that you simply must visit before you die.
Right. Paris, Tokyo, New York, the heavy hitters.
And the culture dictates that if you go to Paris, you are supposed to have a magical time. It is mandated.
It's practically a requirement. But John argues that emotional resonance trumps aesthetics every single time.
Even if the architecture is flawless. Even then, and he uses this great comparison to illustrate it, the flu factor versus the rainy romance.
Walk us through the flu factor, because I am pretty sure I have lived this exact scenario.
Picture this. You are in Rome.
Okay, beautiful.
The architecture is stunning. The history is palpable. You are standing right in front of the Pantheon.
Sounds amazing.
But you have a raging fever.
Oh, no.
Your throat feels like it is full of broken glass. You are shivering.
And suddenly the Pantheon just looks like a pile of old rocks that is way too far from a bathroom.
Exactly. Your internal state projects onto the external environment.
Projection.
It is a core psychological concept. We do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are.
So if you are miserable, the city is miserable.
The cobblestones are not quaint. They are uneven tripping hazards.
Right.
The bustling noise isn't vibrant. It is an assault on your senses.
So logically, in your brain, you know Rome is a beautiful city. But emotionally, you absolutely hate it.
And that emotion wins out. That city will never be a favorite of yours. You will always associate it with physical discomfort.
Okay, so now flip the script. Scenario B, the rainy romance.
Let us say it is a gray industrial town, maybe somewhere in the Rust Belt, or a rainy port city.
Objectively dreary.
Completely dreary. The architecture is brutalist concrete. The weather is hostile.
Sounds terrible, but
But you meet someone. Or you have a massive breakthrough in your work.
okay.
Or you stumble into a tiny cafe just to escape the rain, and you end up having the best conversation of your life.
And suddenly the rain becomes atmospheric?
It becomes the moody backdrop to a movie starring you.
Yes.
A grit becomes texture. The concrete becomes authentic.
You aren't judging the city by a checklist of tourist attractions anymore.
Not at all. You are judging it by the dopamine hit you receive while you were standing in it.
This connects perfectly to what John calls the serendipity of discovery.
Serendipity is an incredibly powerful drug for the human brain.
How does that work?
We are evolutionarily wired to seek out unexpected rewards. When someone tells you, go to the Louvre, it is amazing. And you go, and it is amazing.
Your brain says, okay, expected result achieved.
Exactly. There is no surprise. It is a transaction.
I expected good art. I got good art.
But when you find a tiny hole-in-the-wall bookstore down an alley in a city you didn't even expect to like,
That is true discovery.
that triggers the reward system in the brain, the dopaminergic pathways, much more intensely than any expected pleasure ever could.
It feels like you own it. Like, I discovered this place. It is mine.
Yes, it creates a deep sense of ownership and intimacy.
Which explains why our favorite places are rarely the ones that look the best on a postcard.
They are the places where we felt the most agency and the most surprise.
I think this is such good advice for travelers generally. Stop trying to optimize your itinerary for all the best spots.
You have to leave room for the accidental.
The accident is where the memory lives.
It really is.
Speaking of accidents and unexpected hits of dopamine, let us talk about the sense that is so often the underdog in these conversations.
We focus so much on sight and sound.
We really do.
Yeah.
But the source material makes a huge deal out of the nose.
The olfactory sense. And John is completely right to elevate it here.
It is potent.
Biologically speaking, smell is the only sense that has a direct line to the brain's emotional center.
Wait, unpack that for me. Direct line. Do the other senses not go to the brain too?
They do, but they take a detour.
A detour.
Sight, sound, and touch all have to pass through the thalamus first.
Okay, what does the thalamus do?
The thalamus is like a switchboard operator. It processes the incoming signal, filters it, and then sends it to the cortex for interpretation.
It is a relay station.
Exactly.
So there's a split-second delay, there's a filter applied.
In a sense, yes. But the olfactory bulb, it entirely bypasses the thalamus.
Really?
It connects directly to the amygdala and the hippocampus.
The emotion and memory centers we were talking about earlier with the music?
Right. This is exactly why you can smell something and feel a profound emotion before you even realize what it is you are smelling.
You smell your grandmother's perfume, and you just feel safe and loved before your conscious brain thinks, oh, that is Chanel number 5.
That is wild to think about.
It is like a biological backdoor into our feelings.
It is. And the source gives us a specific vocabulary word for a very specific smell that triggers this exact phenomenon.
Petrichor.
Petrichor.
It is such a beautiful word. It honestly sounds like a character from Greek mythology.
Well, it actually does have Greek roots.
Really?
Yes. Petra, meaning stone, and ichor, meaning the fluid that flows in the veins of the gods.
So blood of the stone. That is incredibly metal.
It is very metal, but the definition is actually quite gentle.
What is the formal definition?
It is the distinct earthy scent produced when rain falls on dry soil.
I think everyone knows this smell. It is that moment right when the summer storm finally breaks.
Yes. But why do we love it so much?
Because it smells good.
It is not just pleasant. John argues it signifies relief after a heat wave.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if we look at it through an evolutionary lens, it goes so much deeper than that.
How far back are we talking?
For our ancient ancestors, rain on dry soil meant water.
Right.
It meant survival. It meant the crops would finally grow and they wouldn't starve.
So when we smell petrichor, we aren't just smelling wet dirt.
No. We are smelling life itself.
We are smelling the promise of survival.
That is a visceral biological trigger. It is much deeper than saying, I like the smell of vanilla.
It is literally encoded in our survival instincts.
Precisely.
Well, speaking of vanilla, let us pivot to the other specific smell they mention in the source.
The scent of decay.
You make it sound so morbid when you say it like that.
Well, technically it is morbid. We are talking about old books.
We are.
Hmm.
The breakdown of organic matter.
Yes.
Why on earth do we like the smell of rotting paper? I mean, I love it. I walk into a used bookstore and I just inhale deeply. But why?
There is actually some fascinating chemistry here.
Okay, break down the chemistry.
Paper contains a substance called lignin. It is a complex polymer found in wood.
So it is in the pages.
Right. And as lignin breaks down over time, it releases these volatile organic compounds into the air.
And what do those compounds smell like?
Well, one of those compounds is chemically very similar to vanillin.
Wait, so old books literally smell like vanilla?
Vanilla with hints of almond and grass.
Wow.
It is a chemical cocktail of comfort scents, but again, it is not just the baseline chemistry, it is the association.
Emma ties this back to the serendipity of discovery we discussed with cities, doesn't she?
She does. It is all about the context of the library.
Think about what a library or a used bookstore actually represents to us.
Quiet, safety, solitude, the endless potential for knowledge.
Right, so the smell itself acts as a signal.
A signal that says to your brain, you are in a safe place where you can learn and grow.
It is comfort. That is the exact word John uses in the text.
Comfort.
So we have petrichor signaling water and survival, and old books signaling safety and knowledge.
Our noses are just constantly reading the environment for these tiny signals of well-being.
And when we find them, we label them as our favorites.
Exactly.
This deep dive is really making me realize how much of my identity is just a collection of safety signals.
That is a massive part of it. But now let us flip the coin entirely.
Okay.
Because identity isn't just about what makes us feel safe or what we run toward.
It's also about what we run away from.
Welcome to the architecture of dislike.
The shadow side.
This is honestly my favorite part of the source material because it is so counterintuitive.
We tend to think of our dislikes as just annoyances, negative noise.
Right. I hate traffic. I hate broccoli. I hate waiting in line.
Just complaints.
But Emma proposes that our dislikes are actually powerful diagnostic tools.
Diagnostic tools for what?
For our core values. She argues that a strong aversion, a true hatred, is the mirror image of a core value.
The shadow side of value.
Exactly. If you want to know what someone truly values deep down, don't ask them what they like.
Ask them what drives them absolutely crazy.
Yes.
Let us look at the case studies from the text, because I want to test this theory on myself.
Let us do it. Case study 1 is crowds.
Okay. John admits he has a visceral reaction to crowded, noisy places. He says he detests them.
Which, to be fair, is a pretty common annoyance.
Yeah.
Who actually enjoys being shoved around in a sweaty crowd?
Extroverts.
True. People who feed off collective energy.
There are people who absolutely love the mosh pit.
They love the bustle of Times Square because it makes them feel vibrant and alive.
But John is clearly not one of those people.
No, he does not.
Okay, so if John hates crowds, what is the hidden value there?
It suggests a high priority on solitude, like introspection, on having complete control over his own environment.
So if you hate chaos, it is because you deeply value order.
Yes. If you hate noise, it is because you value clarity and peace.
The dislike is actually a boundary.
It is a fence protecting something incredibly precious to you.
And the anger you feel when that boundary is crossed is just a measure of how important that value is to your identity.
Correct. It is a protective mechanism.
What about the second case study? Monotony.
This is a really big one, especially for creative types.
If someone says, I despise repetitive tasks, I would rather die than fill out this exact spreadsheet every single day.
They aren't just being difficult.
They aren't just lazy.
No, they are signaling a deep biological need for novelty.
Their brain literally craves new stimuli to function properly.
For them, monotony feels like an actual threat.
Because it starves their primary mode of operating.
Which is intellectual stimulation.
This completely reframes how we look at difficult people in our lives.
Yeah.
Or even how we look at our own frustrations.
It changes the whole paradigm.
Instead of saying, why am I being so impatient with this task? You should ask, what core value of mine is being violated right now?
Exactly. If you hate being micromanaged at work, you value autonomy.
If you hate seeing injustice, you value fairness.
Your hatreds are a roadmap to your ethics.
I wonder if we can take this too far, though. Like, if I hate cilantro, does that mean I value not tasting soap?
Well, there is definitely a biological limit to the theory.
Right.
The cilantro thing is purely genetic. It is the OR6A2 gene variation.
That is hardware, not software.
Exactly. But when we talk about psychological dislikes, situations, social dynamics, aesthetic preferences, that is where the shadow side theory really holds up to scrutiny.
Okay, so we have done the internal stuff.
We have covered the nose, the ears, the gut, and the values.
Let us talk about the outside. Let us talk about the costume.
The evolution of style.
This is fascinating because style is the most visible part of our identity to the outside world. but it is also the most unstable.
It fluctuates wildly over the course of a lifetime.
It does. And John shares a story in the text that made me cringe because I recognize the feeling so well.
Looking back at old photos.
He talks about looking at photos from 10 years ago and just shuddering.
The universal shudder. We have all experienced that.
For him, it was a specific leather jacket.
He wore it religiously?
He thought it was his armor. He thought it projected edge and made him look like a rock star.
And how does he view it now?
Now he calls it a costume.
That word really sticks with me. Costume.
Because when you are wearing a costume, you are actively playing a character. You aren't being yourself.
There is a really interesting concept in psychology called enclothed cognition.
Enclothed cognition, what does that mean?
It suggests that the clothes we wear actually affect our internal psychological processes.
Really? Just the fabric?
Yes. If you wear a doctor's white coat, studies show you become more attentive and careful.
Wow.
If you wear a tailored suit, you actually feel more authoritative and confident.
So John was wearing the leather jacket to try and force himself to feel like a rock star.
He was trying to artificially induce a personality trait that maybe wasn't natural to him.
He was trying to signal coolness to everyone around him.
But looking back with some distance, he realizes it was just a performance. It didn't resonate with his actual, authentic, core self.
And now his style has shifted completely.
He describes his current aesthetic as utilitarian and minimalist.
This is the massive shift from who do I want people to think I am to who am I actually?
He brings up the capsule wardrobe as the physical manifestation of this.
Which I feel like is a buzzword we hear constantly on social media.
Yeah.
But what does it actually represent in this psychological context?
A capsule wardrobe is a highly curated collection of versatile pieces.
Maybe 30 items total in your closet?
Everything matches everything else. It is focused on high quality and low quantity.
Investment pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
But the psychology behind adopting that is what is truly fascinating.
It represents a shift away from the fast fashion mentality.
The mentality of trying on a brand new personality every single week.
Moving toward a sustainable, stable identity.
It is essentially saying, I know who I am now. I do not need to constantly experiment to find myself anymore.
It is a quiet declaration of stability.
I value quality. I value simplicity. I value sustainability.
Yeah.
The external aesthetic choice mirrors an internal maturity.
But this brings us to the really tricky part of the discussion.
The social aspect.
Yes, because we live in a world that absolutely loves to perform identity for an audience.
We live in the age of curation.
The social media trap. Emma goes really hard on this in the source material.
She talks about the intense pressure to curate fake favorites.
It is the coffee table book phenomenon, but translated to the digital world.
The example she gives is the highbrow literary novel.
You know exactly what this looks like. You post an aesthetic picture of War and Peace, or Ulysses casually sitting next to your perfectly poured latte.
You want to signal intelligence to your followers.
You want to signal depth.
Look at me, I engage with very difficult texts on a Tuesday morning.
But meanwhile, what do you actually want to be reading?
You want to read the thriller? You want to read the cheesy romance novel.
You want the easy page turner.
But you hide the thriller. You treat your actual preference like it is a dirty secret.
And this creates a profound psychological dissonance because you are presenting a curated persona to the world that completely clashes with your authentic self.
And maintaining that gap between the two is exhausting.
It is exhausting because it is performance art. You are always on stage.
You are. And John argues, and I think this might be the most important takeaway from the entire discussion, that true confidence comes from closing that gap.
Closing the gap between what you like and what you pretend to like.
He compares it beautifully to fluency in a foreign language.
Right. When you are truly fluent in a language, you do not have to translate the words in your head before you speak.
You just speak naturally.
And when you are truly confident in your identity, you do not have to curate it.
You just like what you like.
He says the ultimate goal is to be able to say, my favorite movie is a silly romantic comedy, and mean it entirely.
And here is the key vocabulary word they use for this state of being. Unapologetic.
Unapologetic. Let us shine a spotlight on that word.
It means offering absolutely no defense for your preferences.
It means not adding a little disclaimer at the end of your sentence.
Not saying, I like this movie, but I know it is technically bad.
No. Just, I like this movie. Full stop.
It is removing the word guilty from the phrase guilty pleasure.
Because why should you ever feel guilty about experiencing joy?
If a silly pop song or predictable movie brings you joy, that is a perfectly valid neurological response.
Apologizing for it is essentially apologizing for your own brain chemistry.
That is a profound way to look at it. It is about owning your choices without feeling the need to impress some invisible, judgmental audience.
And that takes real courage.
It takes a lot of courage to be basic. It takes courage to be uncool.
But the incredible irony is that nothing is cooler than someone who genuinely does not care what you think about their taste.
That is the ultimate paradox of cool. Trying desperately to be cool is inherently uncool.
But being authentically yourself, even if yourself is nerdy or cheesy or weird, is incredibly cool.
Because it signals deep security.
It signals, I am safe in my own skin.
And as human beings, we are biologically attracted to that signal of safety and confidence in others.
We have covered a massive amount of territory today.
We really have, from the vagus nerve reacting to Italian pop music,
To the evolutionary survival signal hidden inside the smell of petrichor, to the Jungian shadow side of hating crowded rooms.
to the enclothed cognition of leather jackets and capsule wardrobes.
It has been a real journey. Let us take a moment to recap the arsenal of vocabulary we have built up over this hour.
These are great tools our listeners can use to analyze their own lives. Let us run through them.
First was visceral.
That gut-level physiological reaction that completely bypasses logic.
Next was petrichor.
The distinct scent of rain hitting dry earth, signaling evolutionary relief and survival.
Then we had inextricably linked.
That describes when a memory and an object are fused together so tightly they cannot be separated.
And finally, unapologetic.
The state of owning your preferences completely without defense or shame.
And there was one more word right at the very end of the source material, a favorite sounding word.
Yes.
Mellifluous.
Mellifluous. It just feels remarkably good to say out loud. It does. It comes from the Latin word mel, meaning honey, and fluere, meaning to flow.
So it literally translates to flowing like honey.
Exactly. It describes a sound that is sweet, musical, and incredibly pleasant to hear.
I feel like we should always aspire to make our conversations here mellifluous.
We can only hope we achieve that today.
So what is the homework for everyone listening? Emma and John don't just leave us with abstract theories.
They want us to actually do something with this information.
The homework is what they call identity archaeology.
Don't just make a list of your favorite things. You have to dig into them.
Take a shovel to your Spotify Wrapped list.
Exactly that. Ask why for every single item on the list.
I love this song. Why? Is it the complex melody? Or is it because I was 19 and falling in love?
I love this shirt. Why? Is it genuinely comfortable, or am I just trying to signal that I am a successful, creative professional?
I hate this specific activity.
Right.
Why? What deeply held core value is being threatened by it?
It is about moving from being a passive consumer of your own life to becoming an active analyst of it.
It is about knowing the difference between the authentic you that exists in time and the you that is just performing for an audience.
That is the goal.
And before we sign off, I want to leave you with a thought that has been nagging at me ever since I read that section on the shadow side.
Go for it. Let us hear it.
We spend so much energy curating what we actively add to our lives.
We do. We buy the books, we buy the clothes, we download the songs.
We tend to think our identity is just a pile of things we've collected over the years.
A museum of preferences.
Exactly. But based on what we learned today about how our hatreds reveal our truest values, consider this.
Okay.
Is your identity actually defined more by what you reject than what you accept?
That is the ultimate question. Is the statue defined by the marble itself or by the empty space where the marble has been carved away?
Something for you to mull over the next time you smell the rain. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Until next time.
I want you to close your eyes for a second. Well, actually, don't close your eyes if you're driving, obviously.
Yeah. Please keep your eyes on the road.
Right. But if you're on the couch or whatever, if you can, just picture this. You are in your car. It's a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
It's raining. You're staring at the bumper of let's say, a gray sedan in front of you. You're just zoning out, waiting for the light to change.
The classic afternoon commute.
Exactly. And you're flipping through radio stations, or maybe your playlist is just on shuffle and you're not really paying attention. And then suddenly, without any warning at all, a song comes on.
A specific song.
A specific song. Maybe something you haven't heard in, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And physically, I mean, literally, physically, you are not in your car anymore.
Right.
The gray sedan is gone. The rain is gone. You are 19 years old again.
Yep. It's instant.
You can smell the cheap cologne or the body spray you used to wear. You know the one I'm talking about.
Oh, I absolutely know the one.
You can feel the humidity of a dorm room in late May. You can feel the exact emotional texture of that specific summer. It's startling, isn't it? It's almost like teleportation.
It is teleportation. I mean, it's a form of time travel that doesn't require a DeLorean or a wormhole.
Right.
And the fascinating thing about what you just described is that it's not just an auditory hallucination. It's a full-body reboot.
Yeah.
And it's not just sound, is it? It happens with the smell of rain.
Yeah.
Or even the texture of a specific fabric.
Exactly. Or why does the smell of rain hitting hot asphalt, that very specific summer smell, why does it feel like relief?
Yes.
Like a literal physical weight being lifted off your shoulders.
Right.
We tend to think of these things, our favorite songs, our favorite places, the smells we love, as just a random list of preferences, just stuff we like.
Just bullet points on a dating profile.
Right. But what if they aren't random at all?
That is the big question we are tackling today. What if those favorites are actually the blueprints?
The blueprints.
What if they are the structural supports of who you actually are?
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are unpacking what we're calling the hidden architecture of you.
I love that title.
We are looking at why we like what we like, and perhaps even more revealing, and this is where it gets spicy, why we hate what we hate.
And what those really strong reactions say about our memories, our senses, and our evolving identities. It's a fascinating topic because it moves us away from this superficial idea of taste and into the actual construction of the self.
Brick by brick.
Exactly, how identity is built brick by brick through sensory experience.
Now, for you listening, if you follow our deep dives regularly, we usually pull from dense academic papers or complex data sets, maybe some investigative journalism.
The heavy stuff.
The heavy stuff. But today, our stack of source material is a little different and honestly, fascinatingly deceptive.
Be very deceptive.
We are looking at a high-level dialogue, a conversation between two speakers named Emma and John from a piece titled The Architecture of Identity: Memories, Senses, and Style.
It's such an interesting choice for us because, on the surface, this source is an advanced English learning tool.
Right.
It's designed to teach C2 level vocabulary to linguists. It's technically an educational script.
It's supposed to be teaching you words like visceral or petrichor or mellifluous.
But, and this is exactly why we picked it, the content of their conversation is incredibly rich psychologically.
It really is.
They aren't just defining words like a dictionary. They're using those words to explore the psychology of nostalgia, the sensory triggers of memory, and how our personal style evolves as we get older.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to look way past the vocabulary lesson. We want to take their conversation and extract those underlying insights about the human condition.
We're going to act like psychological detectives.
Grab the magnifying glass.
Exactly. We're going to look at the aha moments hiding in that dialogue. Specifically, we're going to explore something I find personally fascinating, which is the shadow side of values.
The shadow side. I want to put a huge pin in that because when I read the source, that was the moment where I just stopped and thought, okay, this explains a lot about my own life.
It's a light bulb moment.
This idea that what you hate actually reveals more about you than what you love.
It's a very powerful concept. And we're also going to talk about the trap of the curated persona, how we pretend to like things to look smart, and why the ultimate goal is what the source calls unapologetic authenticity.
Unapologetic authenticity. I like the sound of that. But before we get to the philosophy, let's start with the biology. Let's go back to that time travel feeling I mentioned at the top.
The car and the radio.
Yeah. In the source material, Emma and John discuss music, and they use a specific word to describe the experience of hearing a song from the past. They call it a visceral experience.
Visceral, and is such a heavy, useful word. We use it a lot in casual conversation, but let's really drill down into what it means in this context.
For you listening, you might hear that word thrown around a lot in movie reviews or wine tastings, but how are we defining it here?
So, etymologically, visceral comes from viscera, which refers to the internal organs, the guts.
The literal guts.
The soft underbelly. When we say an experience is visceral, we are making a sharp distinction between the mind and the body. We mean it's not intellectual.
So it's not a thought process. It's not a logical decision.
Precisely. You don't hear the song and think, oh yes, I remember this track from 1998. It was a good year. I was studying economics.
Right, you don't calculate it.
No, you feel it in your stomach. Your heart rate might change. Your skin might literally flush. It's a physiological response before it's a cognitive one. The body remembers before the brain does.
The source calls this the time capsule effect. Emma, one of the speakers in the text, mentions hearing a specific chord progression and immediately flashing back to backpacking through Europe at 19.
Which is such a vivid image.
It is, and I think this is a universal experience. I have songs that if I just hear the opening drum beat, I'm instantly back in my first apartment.
Absolutely. It's universal. Everyone has that one track.
But why does it happen? Why is music such a potent trigger compared to, say, looking at a photograph? Because if I look at a photo of me at 19, I just think, wow, look at that awful haircut.
What was I thinking with those bangs?
Exactly. But I don't feel 19. With music, I actually feel it.
It has to do with how we encode memory. We often refer to albums as the soundtrack to a chapter of our lives, and that metaphor is way deeper than it seems. Think about a movie.
Okay.
A soundtrack tells you how to feel about a scene. It dictates the emotional temperature of the room.
Right. Scary music makes the scene scary. Romantic music makes it romantic.
Exactly. In your life, the music you were listening to during a bad breakup or during your first year of college or during that summer abroad, that music encoded the emotions of that period.
Like a zip file.
It bound the feeling to the frequency. So 10 years later, when you replay the music, you aren't just hearing drums and guitars, you are decoding the emotion. You are unlocking the file.
So the song's essentially a key.
It is a key to a locked room in your nervous system. And once the door is open, the emotion just floods out, whether you want it to or not.
Here is where the source gets really interesting to me, though. It brings up this great distinction between association and objective quality. Because I think we often conflate the two. We think we love a song because it's a masterpiece.
And often, let's be honest, it is emphatically not a masterpiece.
Right. The source uses the example of cheesy Italian pop music.
This is a classic example. I think everyone has their version of cheesy pop. For some people, it's 90s boy bands. For others, it's hair metal from the 80s.
So in the text, Emma admits she loves this 90s Italian pop. Now, objectively, and we have to be honest here, if you analyze 90s pop music, especially the stuff that was churned out for radio, it might be, well, let's call it musically simple.
It might lack complexity, sure. A music theorist might tear it apart. The lyrics might be totally banal. The production might be super dated. It's processed sugar for the ears.
Exactly. But for her, it's a favorite. It is top-tier music. Why? Because it played constantly during her semester in Florence.
Yes.
So she's not actually listening to the melody, she's listening to the memory.
The source uses a key phrase here that I think is essential for understanding our own tastes. They call it inextricably linked.
Inextricably linked. Let's break that down for the listener.
It means two things that cannot be separated. You cannot untangle the knot. In this case, you cannot separate the pop song from the feeling of being 20 years old.
They're fused together.
You can't separate the cheesy bass line from the taste of gelato. You can't separate the chorus from the feeling of having no responsibilities.
So the favorite status isn't about the art at all.
No.
Yeah.
It's about the context. The art is just the container for the context.
I find this to be such a liberating idea because I think we often feel guilty about our guilty pleasures.
Oh, all the time.
We think, oh, I shouldn't like this bad song. I'm a serious person. I listen to jazz. I listen to classical. But what this tells us is that we aren't judging the song. We are cherishing the version of ourselves that existed when we first heard it.
That's it. That is exactly it. You aren't defending the artistic merit of the song. You are defending the validity of your own history. You are cherishing the feeling of freedom and discovery. The song is just the access point.
And this doesn't just apply to music, does it?
Mm-hmm.
The source transitions this idea of emotional resonance to places like cities, travel destinations.
Yes, and this counters a very common misconception. We tend to think we love a city because of its objective qualities.
Right, like we think, I love Paris because of the architecture, or I love Tokyo because of the food.
We think we are being objective critics. Paris is the best city because it has the Louvre.
But the source flips that.
Yeah.
They present this contrast scenario to prove that our love for a place is actually totally subjective and emotional.
Walk us through the scenario. I loved this part of the source.
Okay, take scenario A. You are in a splendid, architecturally beautiful city. Maybe it's Vienna. Maybe it's Paris. Objectively, on paper, it is perfect.
The postcard city.
Exactly. It has the museums, the cafes, the rich history. But you have the flu. You're miserable. You've lost your luggage. You're stuck in a hotel room, staring at a beige wall, shivering and sweating. Is that city a favorite?
Absolutely not. You probably hate it. You just want to go home. You look at the Eiffel Tower and you just feel nausea.
You associate it with fever and misery. The architecture doesn't matter at all because your internal state is wretched. The objective beauty cannot overcome the subjective misery.
Then take scenario B.
Scenario B. You are in a gritty, rainy, maybe kind of ugly industrial city.
Somewhere very gray.
Right. The architecture is brutalist concrete. It's gray. It smells a little bit like exhaust. But you meet the love of your life there. Or you have a conversation in a dingy coffee shop that completely changes your career path.
Or you just have a night out with friends where you laugh harder than you've laughed in years.
Suddenly, that gritty city is the most beautiful place on earth to you.
Because place is also inextricably linked to experience, we are not objective observers of the world. We are emotional participants.
The source uses the word serendipity here.
Serendipity, the occurrence of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way, stumbling upon something unexpected. That feeling of surprise and connection is what cements a place in our identity, much more than how pretty the buildings are.
So if we look at the architecture of identity, the foundation isn't built on good taste or objective quality. It's built on emotional associations. Whether it's a cheesy song or a rainy city, we love what makes us feel.
Exactly. And speaking of feeling, we really need to go deeper into the senses because the source makes a really specific, scientifically backed claim about smell, the olfactory sense.
I was hoping we'd get to this. The source argues that smell is actually more powerful than sight or sound when it comes to memory.
It is. And this isn't just poetic license. This is backed by hard neuroscience. The source notes that the olfactory sense, your sense of smell, is the most direct link to the brain's memory center.
How does that work mechanically?
Well, specifically, the olfactory bulb has a direct line to the amygdala and the hippocampus.
Which are the parts of the brain responsible for emotion and memory.
Right. Let's compare it to the other senses. Visual signals what you see, and auditory signals what you hear. They have to pass through the thalamus first. Think of the thalamus as a switchboard operator or a gatekeeper.
Okay.
It processes the information and then sends it to the cortex.
So there's a delay, a processing step, like going through a toll booth.
Exactly. But smell takes the express lane. It bypasses the thalamus completely and just kicks down the door of the amygdala.
Which explains why smells are so startlingly evocative. You can hear a song and recognize it, and it takes a second to place it. But a smell hits you before you even know what it is.
It bypasses the thinking brain and hits the feeling brain instantly. That's why it feels so visceral, to go back to our earlier word. It's a physical intrusion. You smell chlorine, and you are instantly 6 years old at the public pool before you even think the word pool.
The source introduces a word here that I absolutely love. I think everyone should have this word in their vocabulary. Petrichor.
Ah, yes. Petrichor. It's a beautiful word.
For those who haven't heard it, define petrichor for us.
Petrichor is the distinct earthy scent produced when rain falls on dry soil. It's that smell of a summer storm breaking a really long heat wave. You know it when you smell it.
It's such a specific smell, but I think everyone knows it immediately. It's almost metallic but earthy at the same time.
And it's actually a very specific chemical reaction. Oils from plants get trapped in the soil during dry periods. When it rains, those oils are released into the air along with a compound called geosmin.
Geosmin.
Yes. Humans are incredibly sensitive to geosmin. We can detect it at lower concentrations than sharks can detect blood.
Really? That's wild.
Yeah.
But we don't need to know the chemistry to know the feeling.
And that's the key, the feeling. What does petrichor represent emotionally? The source connects it to relief.
Relief. That makes so much sense.
Think about a heat wave. The tension in the air. The oppression of the heat. Everyone is irritable. The crops are dying. The air is completely stagnant. Then the rain breaks it. That smell, petrichor, signals survival.
It signals that the drought is over.
Exactly. So when we say we love that smell, we are biologically wired to love the signal of relief.
It's primal. We aren't just enjoying a perfume. We are enjoying the scent of survival.
It is primal. It connects us to our ancestors who relied on that rain for their literal existence.
They also mention another scent in the text that I think will resonate with a lot of our listeners. The scent of old books. This is a huge one for book lovers. That vanilla-like scent of degrading paper.
Which, chemically, is actually lignin breaking down in the paper. It releases vanillin. So old books literally smell like vanilla.
But again, it's not just the chemical. It's the association.
Right. If you love that smell, what are you actually loving? You're loving comfort. You're loving quiet libraries. You're loving the feeling of getting lost in a story. You're loving safety. You're loving the idea of knowledge being preserved.
I like that. Safety. It's a quiet smell.
That's the pattern we're seeing here. The sensory input, the smell of the book, the sound of the rain. is just a carrier wave for an emotional state. Safety, relief, freedom.
Speaking of sound, there's another word from the source that deals with the aesthetics of sound itself. Not music, but words. The word is mellifluous.
Mellifluous. It's a word that describes itself, essentially.
It means sweet or musical, pleasant to hear, smooth and flowing like honey.
From the Latin mel, for honey, and fluere, to flow, flowing like honey.
The source makes an interesting point here. Sometimes we like words not because of what they mean, not the definition, but simply how they feel in the mouth, how they sound physically.
It connects back to that visceral experience. We are physical beings. We respond to rhythm, to vibration, to tone. A voice can be mellifluous regardless of what it's saying, and we find that soothing. It appeals to the architecture of our senses. It's a reminder that language isn't just data transfer, it's music.
So we've got these positive pillars of identity. The songs that make us feel free, the smells that make us feel safe, the sounds that soothe us. But this next section, this is where the source takes a turn that I think is brilliant.
The flip side of the coin.
The flip side. They pose a provocative question. Do our strong dislikes, the things we absolutely detest, reveal as much about us as our likes?
I would argue they reveal even more.
This is the shadow side theory.
Right. Think of it this way. Your values, the things you truly care about deep down, are like a solid object. When light hits that object, it casts a shadow. The object is what you value. The shadow is what you dislike because it threatens that value.
So the hatred isn't random. It's a direct pointer to a value.
Exactly. We often define ourselves by what we are for, but what we are against outlines the boundary of our character just as clearly.
Let's look at the case studies from the source because they are really relatable. The first one is a dislike of crowded, noisy places.
Okay, let's unpack this. Say you walk into a crowded bar or a packed subway car, and you don't just feel mildly annoyed. You feel a visceral negative reaction. You feel angry. You feel anxious. You want to flee.
A lot of people would just say, oh, I'm just grumpy today, or I just hate people.
But it's not just that you're grumpy, and it's probably not that you hate people. It's signaling a threat to something you value.
So what is the value casting that shadow?
It reveals that you place a high premium on solitude, or on introspection, or perhaps on having control over your environment. The crowd represents chaos.
Chaos and noise.
It represents a lack of boundaries. It represents sensory overload. If you value boundaries and control, you will naturally, instinctively hate the crowd.
That's so insightful. So the anger isn't about the crowd at all. It's a defense mechanism. You are defending your need for solitude.
Precisely. The stronger the hate, the stronger the underlying value. If you didn't care about solitude, the crowd wouldn't bother you. You just float through it.
What about the second example? Disliking repetitive, monotonous tasks. I think a lot of people feel this. You're doing data entry or washing dishes or filling out long forms, and you just feel your soul dying.
If you detest monotony, if it makes you physically restless and unhappy, it's the shadow revealing that you value novelty.
Novelty.
You value intellectual stimulation. You have a deep need for growth and new challenges.
But surely nobody likes repetitive tasks. I mean, everyone hates doing their taxes.
That's not true, though. Some people find great comfort in repetition. Someone who values security, predictability, and order might actually like repetitive tasks because they are safe. They know exactly what to expect. There is a zen in the process for them.
That's true. I have friends who love knitting or sorting things because it calms them down.
Exactly. But if you value novelty and rapid problem solving, monotony feels like a prison. It feels like a direct threat to your potential.
This is a really powerful tool for self-discovery, for you listening. Instead of just complaining about what drives us crazy, we can look at those annoyances as arrows pointing toward our core values.
It reframes the negative emotion. Instead of just being annoyed, you can say, I am annoyed because my value of autonomy or creativity is being violated right now. It validates your feelings. It turns a complaint into a real insight.
I love that. The shadow side of values. It sounds like a mystery novel title, but it's actually a practical way to understand your own personality.
And it links back to the architecture metaphor. If you know where the shadows fall, you know where the structure stands. You can't have the shadow without the structure.
Okay, we've covered memory, senses, and values, the internal stuff. Now I want to move to the most visible part of this architecture. Style, how we present ourselves to the world.
This is where the rubber meets the road. Because unlike your internal reaction to a smell, style is public. It's communication. It's how we tell the world who we think we are.
The source talks about favorites in flux, how our favorite things change as our identity evolves. And they share this great anecdote about a leather jacket.
The leather jacket. I think everyone has had their version of the leather jacket.
Break down the anecdote for us.
So the speaker, John, talks about how he used to wear a leather jacket religiously 10 years ago. At the time, he thought it gave him a rock star edge. It was his favorite item. He probably felt invincible in it.
We've all been there, trying on a persona. I am a rebel. I am an artist. I am mysterious.
But now, when he looks back at photos or sees the jacket in his closet, he shudders. He sees it as a costume.
That word costume is key.
It is. When we are younger or when we are in a transition phase of life, we often dress for the person we want to be, not necessarily the person we are. We dress for the aspiration.
Fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Right. The leather jacket was a signal, I am cool, I am edgy. But it wasn't authentic. It was a performance.
And now, he says, looking at it makes him shudder because it doesn't resonate with his current self. It feels fake.
Yeah.
It feels like he was lying.
That shudder is the realization of dissonance. It's the gap between the costume and the reality. As we mature, hopefully that gap closes. Our style becomes a reflection of who we are, not who we are trying to convince people we are.
The source mentions that his values have shifted towards a capsule wardrobe. This is a huge trend right now.
It is. The capsule wardrobe, having a small, curated collection of versatile, high-quality pieces, is a direct reflection of shifting values.
It's the investment piece mental model.
Right. It signals a move away from fast fashion, which is about constant change in consumption, towards sustainability and intentionality.
Intentionality, that's the word.
It's saying, I know who I am. I don't need 50 cheap shirts to figure it out. I need 5 good shirts that actually fit my life.
Yeah.
It's a shift from looking cool to being utilitarian and minimalist. It's a confident quietness.
It's less look at me and more this is me.
Exactly.
But in these discussions, the source also warns about a trap here. The trap of the curated persona.
This is the major danger of the social media age. We are constantly performing our identity online.
We feel pressured to have favorites that signal intelligence or status.
To fake favorite.
Give us an example of a fake favorite.
The classic example is the bookshelf background in a video call, or posting a photo of a dense, highbrow literary novel, maybe Infinite Jest or War and Peace, and claiming it's your favorite book.
When really you're struggling to get through page 10, you're bored to tears.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the book you actually stayed up all night reading was a gripping thriller, or a celebrity biography, or a graphic novel, but you don't post that.
Because the thriller doesn't signal sophistication. It doesn't get the likes. It doesn't make you look smart.
Right. We curate our favorites to manage how others perceive us. We are building a facade, not a home. We are signaling virtues we think we should have rather than the tastes we actually have.
It's exhausting, isn't it? Maintaining that facade.
It's incredibly draining. It creates a massive disconnect between your public self and your private self. And that disconnect creates anxiety.
So what is the antidote? The source gives us a goal. Unapologetic authenticity.
Unapologetic authenticity. This is the ultimate sign of maturity and confidence.
Define unapologetic in this context.
Yeah.
Because it sounds aggressive, but I don't think it is.
It's not aggressive at all. It's grounded. It means exactly what it says, not being sorry. It's the ability to say, I know this movie is a silly romantic comedy. I know the critics hate it. I know it's got a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I love it.
Yes.
It makes me laugh. It makes me feel good. And I am not going to pretend otherwise.
That sounds like true freedom.
It is. When you can own your preferences without shame, you have fully inhabited your own identity. You aren't renting space in someone else's opinion anymore. You are the owner of the house.
I love that image. You aren't renting space in someone else's opinion. It connects back to the Italian pop music we started with, doesn't it?
It does. It brings it full circle.
Emma, knowing that the music is cheesy but loving it anyway because of what it means to her,
Yeah.
that is unapologetic. She's not trying to impress a music critic. She's honoring her own memory.
And that's the fluency the source talks about. Not just language fluency, but emotional fluency. Being fluent in yourself. Knowing why you like what you like and standing by it.
So we've covered a lot of ground here today. We've gone from the visceral time travel of music to the biology of smell in the amygdala to the shadow side of our hatreds and finally to the confidence of owning our style. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it all holds together under that umbrella of the architecture of identity.
Let's do a quick recap of the gem words we pulled from the source, because they really are the keys to this conversation. For you listening, if you want to talk about this with your friends, these are the words you need.
Sure. We started with visceral, that deep gut-level physical feeling, not in the head, but in the body.
Then inextricably linked, when a thing and a feeling cannot be separated, the song is the memory.
We had petrichor, the smell of rain on dry earth, symbolizing relief and survival.
Mellifluous, a sound that is sweet and smooth like honey. A reminder that form matters as much as content.
And finally, unapologetic, owning your choices without shame. The goal of the mature identity.
It's a beautiful vocabulary for self-analysis. So if you had to synthesize this for our listener, if they take one thing away from this deep dive into the architecture of identity, what should it be?
I think the key takeaway is that you are not a static object. You are a process. Your identity isn't just a list of likes on a profile. It is built on sensory memories. That's the foundation. It's framed by your emotional associations, why you love that city or that song. And it's decorated by your values, which evolve over time.
And those values are sometimes revealed by what you dislike.
Exactly. So don't look at your preferences as random. Don't dismiss them. Look at them as data. They are telling you who you are.
That leads us perfectly to our final provocative thought for the listener. The source material actually assigns homework, and I think it's a great challenge for everyone listening.
The challenge is to move from what to why.
Right. As you go through your week, pay attention to the things you gravitate toward. The mug you always grab from the cupboard. The playlist you always put on when you need to focus. The shirt you always wear when you need to feel confident.
And ask yourself, why? Don't just say, I like it. Dig deeper.
Is it nostalgia? Are you trying to get back to a feeling of being 19?
Is it sensory? Does the texture or the smell calm your nervous system? Is it a visceral reaction?
Or is it a value? Does this item represent simplicity or novelty or comfort?
And conversely, look at what you're avoiding. Look at what annoys you. What value is casting that shadow?
Identify your own petrichor. Identify your own Italian pop music. Find the things that make you uniquely you, and then practice being unapologetic about them.
Because the more you understand the architecture, the more comfortable you'll feel living in the house.
I love that. The more you understand the architecture, the more comfortable you'll feel living in the house. That is the perfect place to leave it. Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive.
It was a pleasure. It's always fun to explore the hidden side of things.
And thank you to you, the listener, for tuning in. We hope this gives you a new lens to look at your own world. Keep listening, keep analyzing, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
Goodbye.
See ya.